You and I are looking at a man near Nancy Guthrie's door, on camera, unidentified. Almost 3 months since Nancy vanished, and absolutely no one has claimed his identity. That frozen, grainy face, someone out there has to know it. It's now the biggest unanswered question in this entire investigation. Detectives have it, the public has seen it, and the dead silence surrounding this guy? It doesn't feel accidental. But here's what's even more chilling than the footage. It's what police reportedly started asking once they looked backward instead of forward. Not who stood near her door that night, but who lingered near that property for years. Who memorized the layout simply by being close, not through planning. Who gathered the exact knowledge needed to slip through a home in the dark, within a 41-minute window, without hesitation. Brian Entin's latest reporting uncovered something the initial missing persons investigation either completely missed or just acted too slowly on. The brutal truth of what happened to Nancy Guthrie might not have come from outside her world that specific night. The threat might have lived inside her circle for a very long time. Let's dig in. Day 87 in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood looks incredibly different from day 1. That frantic early search has morphed into something much heavier. Fresh flowers still show up outside Nancy's house. Yellow ribbons still choke the trees and mailboxes down the street. Her community refuses to move on. They are trapped in sustained grief. It's the crushing weight of not knowing, no funeral to attend, no final closure to help process the loss. Just a haunting, endless absence without any resolution. Right into that heavy atmosphere, the FBI reportedly returned. No massive break in the case, no arrest warrants. Just the quiet, methodical focus of federal agents who haven't closed this file and definitely don't plan to. Circling back to witnesses, verifying statements taken weeks ago, chasing tiny details logged in those early interviews but ignored while the big picture was taking shape. One of those crucial voices was Aldine, Nancy's neighbor. Aldine was among the very first people detectives interviewed right after Nancy disappeared. What she reportedly saw during that overnight window, a shadow slipping through the neighborhood, the exact timing, the strange way the person moved that felt deeply wrong, even if she couldn't fully explain why that made her an absolutely critical civilian witness during the initial hunt. The FBI circled back to her repeatedly, which speaks volumes. When federal agents revisit a witness multiple times, it's not because that first chat was a dead end. It's because the evidence has sharpened. Those early memories finally lock into a solid framework with massive new weight. A throwaway line Aldine dropped in week 1 suddenly means everything in week 12. Detectives need to hear it again, filtering it through all the fresh evidence they just uncovered. Now, here's the detail that totally flipped the forensic timeline. A single hair pulled from Nancy's house. It wasn't hers. They shipped it to the FBI crime lab for DNA testing. One hair is enough. Even a rootless strand holds mitochondrial DNA that traces a direct family line. If that hair has a follicle, it packs nuclear DNA. Get a direct profile match against the right suspect, and investigators can close this terrifying loop for good. The question isn't whether this single hair matters. It absolutely does. The real question is why it bypassed local cops and went straight to Quantico. We need to know what the lab found when they tested it. That answer is locked down tight, and honestly, that silence is a huge clue. Because lab results that clear a suspect proof that points away from their main targets usually hit the public record fast. Damning evidence stays buried. Keeping this hair analysis totally quiet matches what insiders have been hinting at for weeks. Law enforcement is holding back way more evidence than they're showing. Whatever sits in that lab report is the exact difference between a wild theory and a solid case. Stick with me here. This is the exact moment investigators completely changed the trajectory of the true crime case. The choice to stop obsessing over the night of January 31st and start looking backward, years into the past. Detectives started ripping into the deep history of Nancy's property. Contractors who fixed the house, maintenance guys who swung through for basic repairs, house guests who stayed for weeks, landscapers who mapped the yard, and cleaning crews with total access to the inside. Anyone who spent enough time on that property to memorize it. Because the timeline of Nancy's disappearance proves the intruder knew every inch of that house. Then we have the casita. Nancy's land featured a detached guest house, rented out to various tenants over long stretches of time. Which means, over the years, several strangers had round-the-clock residential access to her entire property. People waking up inside the physical perimeter of Nancy's life every single morning. Tenants who studied the sightlines, tracked Nancy's daily routines, and knew exactly when lights flicked on. which security cameras covered specific angles. That is absolutely not just hypothetical familiarity. You and I both know that's documented, time-stamped access. The kind detectives can trace through old leases and background checks, hunting a ghost from years ago. The specific question driving this background investigation was incredibly precise. Did anyone in Nancy's past know the property well enough to match the operational awareness her abductor clearly had? That angle is still being actively worked. Here's where the search controversy kicks in, and you and I need to look closer. The United Cajun Navy offered to help. For anyone unaware, the United Cajun Navy is a volunteer search and rescue crew with a seriously legitimate track record. They brought serious tools to the table: drones, canine teams, advanced aerial mapping, thermal imaging, and the manpower to run a massive desert search across the rugged terrain surrounding the Catalina foothills. The Arizona desert is massive and brutal. It's tough to clear, even with heavy resources. If Nancy is still out there, if her remains are hidden somewhere in the terrain around Tucson, finding her takes the kind of massive, systematic search that volunteer outfits like the United Cajun Navy are literally built to run. The sheriff's office reportedly turned the offer down flat. Let that sink in for a second, because during an investigation that insiders repeatedly described as totally under-resourced in its critical early days, refusing help from a volunteer group, offering up free drones, search dogs, thermal imaging, and aerial mapping is a heavy choice that demands an explanation, one the public never got. Could there be legitimate operational reasons for this? Absolutely. Active cases sometimes reject outside help because volunteer crews might accidentally compromise the evidence, or because detectives have a very specific reason for keeping the true search zone quiet, or maybe the legal nightmares of mixing volunteers into a federal case are far messier than they look from the outside. Still, an offer was made and rejected while massive stretches of desert sit unsearched. That's a massive point of friction that detectives, reporters, and Nancy's family can't ignore. Somewhere in that unforgiving sand, the answer might be waiting, and the question of whether every available asset was deployed to find it still hasn't been put to rest. Let's circle back to that unidentified man by the door. He doesn't exist in a vacuum. Aldine spotted someone that night. She couldn't make out his face, but she nailed the timing and movements so well that detectives kept circling back to her story. Security video clearly captures a man lurking near Nancy's porch. The background dig has been hunting for anyone with a previous tie to the house. Meanwhile, an unidentified hair from the scene is sitting inside an FBI lab. A face on tape, a witness statement, and mystery DNA. Those three pieces form a tight investigative triangle. They don't even have to match to be huge. But if they do line up, if the guy on camera is the same phantom Aldine saw, and if that single hair yields DNA matching a name from the property's history check, the whole triangle snaps shut. That's exactly the breakthrough detectives seem to be chasing. It's rarely one magic clue that cracks a case. It's stacking the evidence to kill off alternate theories one by one, until the final answer is the only one left standing. They aren't there yet, but the trajectory of this case is completely obvious in the evidence they reportedly already hold. Bizarre letters started showing up at Aldine's house, the online sleuths obsessing over the case, the Facebook groups, and true crime spaces treating Nancy's disappearance like a puzzle had clearly doxed Aldine as a public witness. The sheer volume and unhinged nature of the mail she received perfectly captured the chaos of a case going extremely viral online. Wild theories, speculation, demanding questions, and the deeply obsessive, but sometimes brilliant work of thousands of armchair detectives trying to crack the case using public data. The FBI apparently reviewed the letters. That matters, because federal agents don't waste time reading fan mail sent to a neighbor unless they suspect those envelopes hold something huge. A solid tip, a name, or a tiny detail from someone who spotted something in the media but was too terrified to call the police. Every single piece of that mail is a crucial data point drawn from the public layer of this investigation. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes the person holding the smoking gun just isn't brave enough to pick up the phone and call the official tip line. But they will mail a witness. They'll drop hints in a forum. They'll float facts out into the public square from a safe distance, terrified of going straight to the cops. The FBI reading her mail is proof they know the missing puzzle piece might be sitting inside an envelope on a neighbor's porch, sent by someone too scared to talk. You and I need to be completely honest about where day 87 leaves this manhunt. The guy on the security tape is still a ghost. Someone out there watching this video knows exactly who he is. I'm dead serious. Statistically, in a high-profile investigation with this much media heat, the person who recognizes his face has probably already seen the footage and just chose to stay quiet. You and I have to wonder if this changes everything. That hair in the FBI lab finally produced a result, but it's not public yet. The silence around it is deafening. Sources tell me, investigators know way more than they're letting on, and that usually means they found something massive. They're digging deep into the property's past, looking at old contractors, previous renters, and service providers. They're still tracking down everyone who rented the guest house. Over the last few weeks, that list of names has only grown longer. Every single name either clears a suspect or it doesn't. The ones that don't are staying right there in the active file. That guest house rental history is a massive clue. It is an angle that no one has really talked about publicly yet. Think about the people who had full access to Nancy's home over the years. People who knew the exact layout because they actually lived right there on the property. That's a whole group of suspects the cops completely ignored early on. Well, they're absolutely prioritizing them now. 3 months later, yellow ribbons still line the mailboxes, and fresh flowers keep appearing at the door. This entire neighborhood feels the missing presence of a woman who meant everything to them, and they carry that heavy weight without any answers. The non-stop vigils and the very public mourning aren't just about grief. They send a clear, direct signal to whoever actually took Nancy. A warning to whoever is keeping quiet. To the person who saw something that horrible night and has carried that dark secret for 3 months. The neighborhood hasn't forgotten. Locals are still talking to the FBI, and those agents just keep coming back. That is not what happens when detectives run out of leads. That is exactly what happens when a massive investigation starts zeroing in, slowly and carefully. It is the exact, methodical way federal cases get built. You rarely get one huge break. It's about crossing off every single dead end until the horrifying truth is the only thing left. A shadowy face on a camera. A single hair in a lab. A neighbor who couldn't catch the face but will never forget the movement. A guest house history that nobody has answered for yet. A sprawling desert that is huge, but definitely not endless. And somewhere out there is a person who knows exactly what went down on January 31st. Someone waking up every single day, wondering if today is the day they finally talk. If you have any clue at all about Nancy Guthrie vanishing, anything about that strange man by the door, or anyone with access to her property, or anything tied to the night she went missing, please use the tip line below. We both know someone is hiding the truth, and the FBI isn't stopping. Keep saying her name. Share this video around. I'll catch you in the next one.